But
Right.
that brings us to our next segment, if you don't mind there, Brett, unless you have anything more to say.
Oh, buddy.
Okay,
You're
so
the captain of this good ship, buddy.
good ship boozing.
The
Uh,
good drunken ship of literature. That's right.
um, I have my synopsis here that I'll start off with. Today, President Gerardo Machado had once said he would turn Cuba into the Switzerland of the Americas. And the start of his first term at the country's helm seemed to support that dream. Prosperity was growing on the back of an expanding sugar business, mainly to the growing American market. But not long after, things soured and soured fast. Having campaigned on only ruling for one term, Machado, I'm sorry if I pronounce his name wrong, only 2 years into his term, championed running again and made legislative amendments to allow for it, to allow for his running, attracting criticism of becoming a growing despot. Meanwhile, that expanding sugar business was contracting, attracting the scorn of the common people, and that wave of popularity Machado rode in on was ebbing hard. And things were only made worse by the Great Depression of 1929. By this
Mm.
time, the head of count of opposition critics in Cuba was mounting, and Machado closed the Recto Estudiante Universitario, whose students greatly opposed him in 1930. The situation was to crescendo in 1933. Murders by police were rampant and directed by Machado administration, or better referred to as the regime by this point. Even the United States was worried. Edward Reed, the U.S. chargee, wrote April 8th to the Secretary of State that there were several killings 2 nights prior in Havana. I quote, "The secret police arrested a man named Carlos Manuel Fuentes outside the Payet Theater in Havana. Fuentes is said to have been a member of the student directorate. That in the night, his body was found near the Ermita de la Catalina on Aristara Street." End quote. 6 months later, the Surgeons' Revolt, also known as the Cuban Revolution, would upend Cuba and lead to the island on the path to what we know it is today. But it's not yet September. It's the 10th of May. There's a month of fishing behind us, and the big fish have not yet started to run. In this episode of Boozing Through the New Yorker, that's what I called it, in big game fishing, a rod that is too stiff kills the angler, while a rod that bends properly kills the fish. Pursuit is Happiness by Ernest Hemingway. I gotta tell you, it's amazing to read a new Hemingway.
Yes.
It's something special.
It's new, but it's really not. It's interesting.
Yeah.
You kind of get the idea that you kind of understand why it wasn't published until 59 years after his death,
Mm.
and it's I don't think as remarkable as it is, I share like you your enthusiasm to read any Hemingway I haven't read before,
Yeah.
but it feels like I have read it before, and it feels like it doesn't add a single drop to the great ocean of the
Uh-huh.
old man and the sea. It's interesting. At first, I thought I just it was cut off. At first, at the
Mm.
ending, I'm like, oh, there's more to it,
Right.
and then I realized, oh wait, there's that little black diamond that always signifies the end of a New Yorker article or something. Like, oh shit, that was it.
Uh-huh.
And it's just it's I don't think it's any, but we can get to that, but I don't think it's anything that he hasn't already written
Mm-hmm.
in a way. I
Well,
don't know.
it's going to be included in the new library edition uh of the Old Man in the Sea, right? Like it's not, and it's
It's
not.
almost like a coda to it.
They.
It's just,
Mhm.
you have Ernest Hemingway as I never read any fiction of his where he is the protagonist.
Yeah.
Have you?
Well, I mean, Hemingway used to say that A Movable Feast was fiction, right? Like, and the way and it's
Yeah, he
not,
did. He
but
did.
and the way
Yeah, that's right.
there's an
Never.
interview with his grandson who found this story, and they asked him, "Do you think this is fiction?" And he said, "Well, I think it's fiction in that it's a compilation of stories of fishing trips because he was in Cuba in 1933 when this was happening for a
Right,
fishing trip, right?
right.
So it's And I believe that story. And Hemingway's character, character of Ernest Hemingway, is not that different than other, protagonists he's written before. Who knows that he just doesn't go back in there later and go, with the old eraser and put in like Richard, right? Like that's what I
Sure.
was thinking. And then just try to publish it that way. He's published stories that he published first as newspaper articles and then later as fiction pieces.
Do you think if this had gone to publication in his lifetime, he would have erased Ernest and written Donald or something like that, or Nick Adams or
Yeah.
something? Yeah,
Nick Adams
it's
would make
possible.
sense,
It's totally possible.
And I love the way he writes. There's such an
Oh,
elegance to it.
it's so clean,
Yeah, I just love that.
so clean,
Mhm.
and I like too how the narrative it's written in the first person,
Mhm.
pursuit as happiness, but the Ernest Hemingway character usually knows more than he should.
Mhm.
And that's beautiful. I love it when narration is just a little sloppy. I
Mhm.
don't like perfection in terms of, almost a slavish adherence to what the narrator is able to know.
Okay.
I love Dostoevsky's third person narration,
Uh-huh.
where you'll have in The Possessed, for instance, you'll have a sequence take place between two characters who are not the narrator, alone together at night talking, and one of them dies and the other one leaves the country, and neither have an opportunity to tell the narrator what they spoke of. And the narrator still writes with full confidence what took place in that room, exactly what was said, exactly what happened. And I love that. I absolutely love that license. And it's seen here. There's fat in the story too. It's lean fat, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. It's not terribly fatty,
Mhm.
but there's wonderful scenes, vignettes, if you will, describing that one indication that we know it takes place during the Machado regime, when Machado is the secret policeman who he's gay, but he's very aggressive about it.
Uh-huh.
He wants to kill a man to show how much he likes Hemingway's the guy who owns the boat that Hemingway is chartering for
Josie,
Mr. Josie.
Yeah.
He's a Machado secret policeman. He's the clubbing policeman.
As they call
He
them. Yeah.
clubs people. But it's that scene itself. It doesn't seem like it's very necessary to the themes or the plot. It's still there. It's still there. Stuff like that. Oh my God! And how he just tersely and beautifully describes it in clean, simple language.
I like that too. I like that's why I wrote the intro this way.
Do you realize, listeners, that Darryl and I are hard right now? We do, in that sense that we have a Hemingway boner right now.
I do love that about it. I love the fact that there's a world that's bigger than the story itself. Even though it's not necessarily the themes of it. I was trying to look at it through the lens of the header, the title, but the title was picked by the grandson. It's not a Hemingway title. The title comes from the hills of Africa, like the fourth section of it, right? So
because there's no reason to read the story unless you enjoy those fatty moments when you read the title, because the title is the theme.
Yeah.
It's just spelled out.
Yeah.
There's no, you can't win in life. You can't win. Everything you want to do comes to ruin. But it's trying to do it. That's where the hot heart of life beats. Trying to do it. Make it like not just saying it, but trying to actually do it. Trying, as Hemingway's character does, to not get drunk every night and fuck women and wake up with sore body, like a bruised liver and a groggy forehead. No, going home, not drinking, going home, maybe not even eating, waking up at dawn, writing, which is in a way, doing what must be done first. And then by 8 a.m., getting on Mr. Josie's boat, catching marlin, dressing them on board with Carlos, and giving them to poor people on the dock, detritus of the Machado regime, and beating back policemen and saying, "You're not on the promised list, fuck off." Like that's life. They want to catch the big guy, the 900-pounder, the record setter, but they can't. But they try, and all that fighting your own alcoholism, fighting your own propensity to have
to bed women,
have sex in the middle of an economic depression and a political destabilized country. All these eating raw steak when no one's eating, the country's starving, and just saying no to that, just so to get out and try, and failing. I mean, I know you're going to ask this later, but maybe I'll jump the gun a bit if you'll allow me to. The line of the story that I enjoy the most is when poor Carlos cut the wrong line.
Yeah.
And what did he say? He uttered, I'm just going from memory here, he uttered a cry that was like that despair distilled.
Yeah.
A cry that no sane man could utter.
No sane human. Like yeah, I actually went back to check that. Yeah, because I thought that was like, yeah, I know.
Oh, poor Carlos, he beat himself up over doing that.
And for the rest of the story, he vomited in his head. Right, that's the term that Hemingway
vomited in the head.
In the head, yeah. Which I didn't exactly know, but I guess that had to do with like a vomit from the head, not from the stomach. Right, like it has to do.
Could be.
I'm not fully sure what that meant, but yeah, he's just mopey for the rest of and they're like, you can't be like this. We can't fish if you're like this. And he's a great fisherman, so the shame of that is that much more. And when I read it, I read it a couple times. That section, I actually at first thought he lost. That they lost his fingers when they cut the line, because it then goes down, go down, go down. I'm like, is that his fingers? But no, he just cut the wrong line.
He cut the line that actually held the 900-pound marlin.
And the scream was as loud as if he did lose his hand.
Yeah. He would have felt better to lose his hand if they got the fish. But it's just this idea that 4 hours and 42 minutes, however long it took to bring the fish to that state of fatigue, losing the rod, trying to swap rods. It ended because of this mistake. And, Ernest Hemingway and Mr. Josie are like, well, that's how it goes.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. So in a sense, they're the old waiter from a clean, well-lighted place, and Carlos is the young waiter. It's this idea that life must go as planned. I failed. I ruined. He said to her, "I ruined your life and mine."
Yeah, the entire life's over that. Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't. And Ernest's like, "No, you didn't. It's okay. It's just," and it's wonderful. It's like it's almost like the character of Ernest Hemingway is the protagonist of Farewell to Arms, just grown older. The protagonist in Farewell to Arms believed in love, and life says, no, you can't have it.
Right.
She dies now, and you're going to walk out in the rain alone.
Fuck.
Which is one of the most devastating conclusions to a book of all time. Yeah. Farewell to Arms is a very hard book to read, but fast forward 25 years later, when I guess, or whatever time his span has taken place, and you have the loss of the prize marlin that you could give away, the whole goal of all these repeated charters. And it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen, but it's okay. Nothing happens. Yeah, nothing really happens, but it's trying. It's the pursuit that makes you feel alive.
And they go again for another month, right? At least.
They go again.
Yeah.
and they won't catch any fish. He says it himself. We never caught anything,
Uh-huh.
but they tried, and there's it's bleak but beautiful in a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, it wasn't depressing. It wasn't like,
No, it wasn't.
yeah, it wasn't depressing. What are you gonna do? You gotta like you have two choices: to try or not to try. That's almost Yoda. What is it? Try.
Not to try, you must not. What?
No, it's an actual quote from the movie. Try or not to try. No. Whatever. Fuck it. We'll get complaints from
Well, Star
Yoda.
Wars.
Yeah.
It's just I'd rather have that giant-headed fool George Lucas still helming it than those skim milk in their veins assholes down in Disney. Oh my God, they're gonna milk that fucking thing. They're gonna have 6 fucking movies with a baby Yoda in it
Yeah,
until that box.
because it trended well.
No, because it's just they're just gonna make movies to make money. There's no reason to fucking. It's like with The Hobbit. The Hobbit is 1 movie. It's not 3.
The Hobbit's a boring book. Also, don't
Boring
yell at me.
ass
It's
fucking
a
shit.
boring
I mean,
book.
look, it's cool that there's a Benedict Cumberbatch is a dragon. That's pretty fucking cool.
I don't have no idea. I have,
But but whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a different discussion.
well, very quickly before we got to wrap it up because I have to go labor in the old newspaper mines. Dig up those commas. What do you think about posthumous work? This is not the first Hemingway to be posthumously done. Like he said,
Right.
novels done
Right.
and things like that.
I read Garden of Eden, which was written in which was published in '86, a whole quarter century after he killed himself, and I felt like I was violating his privacy. I'm like, this isn't done.
Yeah.
I mean, profoundly, it's not done. I mean, it's not as if to say that, yeah, on the surface, it's not done. The story ends before it ends, but no, it's just not done. And I didn't enjoy it. I thought that all writers must understand that when they publish it, it's not theirs anymore. But he didn't publish it.
No.
And it's like I'm obviously titillated to read this short story, which it's not. I don't think it's anything I haven't read before, but still, it was a pleasure in itself to read. It's just you feel like you're like imagine if he was still alive and it got out and was published behind his back. It's the same thing. He's not ready. It's not ready.
This feels more polished than other of his posthumous stuff in a way.
Maybe an editor got a hold of it. I don't know did an editor get a hold of it after the grandson turned it in?
They didn't say about that. The book, it was found among papers in his library at the JFK library.
Yeah, JFK library. That's where it's at. And Library of Congress too is holding his works.
Yeah, and so it was found recently among papers there, and they took it to the New Yorker. This is the New Yorker's fiction issue. That's why there's a bunch of stuff in it, and they published it. But it makes me think of like you were saying, it's a little naked, right? Like to publish you don't want people to read your unpublished, like your incomplete stuff that you're not ready for others to read because it's not good. Like writing is
you want your editor to read it, and whatever changes the editor makes, you want to be able to approve.
Yeah,
and then you both partake in that strange act of publishing where you relinquish control of it. But you relinquish control of it in the same way that parents relinquish guardianship of their children. It's the same thing. You hope that you built a person and shaped a person that will survive the tongue and the teeth and the fists of the world.
Yeah.
But they may not.
That's a good way to put it.
They may be murdered in a bar fight. They may be raped in an alley. They may be fired and in such a manner that causes them to kill themselves. In the same way, a book, you or a short story, you and your editor, you polish it, you refine it, you tighten it up, but it might still get pilloried by a very influential critic who denies it its proper life. You know, it's a terrible review that's widely spread can destroy a book before it even really gets a chance to get out there. That's what happened to Moby Dick. It took two generations to pass.
It's crazy
for Moby Dick to even begin to get the recognition it deserves. It's just and that didn't happen with the short story. He died, and it was,
and to that point,
it was so. Was it
to the point you were talking about giving it over to, like, you're the parent of this piece, this child, and you give it over to a guardianship? Who was his editor for 35 years?
Charles Scribner.
No,
Maxwell Perkins.
Yeah.
Maxwell Perkins. Sorry.
Yeah.
And then Scribner was the publisher.
Yeah. So I don't think Perkins was editing this.
No. Perkins is long gone.
Yeah. But that's to your point, right? Like, that's the relationship that he had with Perkins. He had he edited like everything that I can really think of at the moment. You have to have that trust. So, but I'm glad to have read it, but I do take it as that it's a little bit, it's unfair to like tear it apart a little bit,
right? Right.
But
it's just, Carlos is Santiago in a way. It's just no, Carlos and Ernest Hemingway are Santiago in different ways from The Old Man and the Sea. And I just don't think that this short story really adds anything to what The Old Man and the Sea accomplished.
There's that section in the short story, in this one, where where Josie's like, he asks Josie, what do you want me to write about? I don't know, write about, the stuff we know about and going out and this and that. And it's like, well, that's what this is. That's this whole story is just, he's writing a story for Josie because he told him, write about us going out. You're not going out now, but you have enough stories about going out from before, and write about fishing. So he did.
I don't know about you, but I love that little expression that Mr. Josie uses that is very much rooted in American 30s slang. Write about your time in the war or out west when you were on the bum. On the bum. That's such a great... It's not used anymore because I guess bum is a pejorative for a homeless person. But, on the bum, your time when you had no money, the time when you were broke, and you were sojourning, as it were. You were, and it comes out of that tradition of hoboism in America, where America is this libertarian paradise where you go out into the West and you get, scalped and sodomized and burned alive or die of starvation and get killed by wolves. But every now and then you manage to build a homestead and raise a family and get a bunch of acreage and stay. It's this idea that life may reduce you to the status of a wandering poor person, but you've got to make a go of it anyway.
Right. Back to what we're talking about. The trying, the pursuit.
You got to make a go of it anyway. Yeah. Yeah. When you yourself often have to do terrible things to your fellow human beings in order to make it. In this case, they weren't. They were doing the opposite. They were trying to help people by doing this. Giving away the free fillets of marlin on the pier to a starving population caught in the teeth of a despotic regime. And that's one more thing, too, about the short story. I think what it does, actually, I should take this back. What it does that The Old Man and the Sea does not, it shows the criminality of the government and the oppression of the people. Santiago, as a character in The Old Man and the Sea, is one of these people. But it's implicit that he is, he could be a down and out person from anywhere. But in this case, it shows a specifically Cuban type of being down and out, that has everything to do with the seemingly endless cycle of dictator presidents.
The Old Man and the Sea is like a fairy tale. That's the way I kind of always
Yes.
saw it.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Faulkner said of The Old Man and the Sea that it's the only Hemingway work where he felt Hemingway was truly being himself, where he, what did he say? Where Hemingway finally gave up the manacles of the self and tried to touch the face of God or something like that. Tried to see the sublime beyond the self or something like that. Basically, rather than have a character who's stuck in his own head, there's a character reaching for the heavens, the elemental heavens, as it were. I thought it was unfair, but still pretty beautiful. It's about as close to a homage as you're going to get from a guy like Faulkner, I suppose.
And next week, we're going to be looking at a piece by one of our favorites. I'm really looking forward to reading it, by Murakami. I don't have the title in front of me, but it's going to be... I hope it's good.
The masturbator of the middle class. All right.
And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. I'm Darryl. He's Brett. We're boozing. Keep on scribbling.